Before I tell you about the Slavic Zorze or Rodzanice and the Nordic Norns, let me share 5 fascinating facts. Fact number 1. The cult of the Rodzanice was older than Perun. In the oldest Russian anti-pagan sermons from the 11th century, including the Word of Saint Gregory, it is clearly written that the Slavs first made sacrifices to Rod and the Rodzanice and only later to Perun. This means that the goddesses of fate were worshipped in a very primitive pre-state phase of Slavic religion, before the great pantheons with thunder gods at their head were formed. Fact number 2. The Rodzanites were given their own table, next to the Christian one. For many centuries after Christianization, 2 Christmas Eve tables stood in Slavic homes, one for the family and Christ, with kutia, the other, smaller and clean, specifically for Rod and the Rodzane. The church fought this custom as late as the 16th century, but people still left bread, honey, and groats for the sisters. Fact number 3. The Zorze are literally guardians of the sun. In the East Slavic tradition, the 3 Zorze, morning, noon, and evening, open and close the gates of heaven for Dazbog the sun. In the morning, they release it onto the sky. In the evening, they close them so the sun can rest in the underground palace. That is why it is said that whoever sees both the morning and evening dawn on the same day has exceptional luck. Fact number 4. The Rodzanice sometimes argued over a person's fate. In Balkan folklore, the 3 sisters were not always in agreement. One might want a poor and short life. The second would try to soften it. And the third ultimately decided. People believed that a newborn's loud crying on the first night was the sound of the Rodzanice arguing over its dola. Fact number 5. The most effective life hack for changing one's dola, the red thread. To this day, in some regions of the Balkans, the oldest Slavic amulet is practiced. A red woolen thread tied on the left wrist with 3, 7, or 9 knots. With each knot, a specific wish is spoken. It is worn until it breaks on its own. Then the Rodzanice have accepted the request and reworked the thread of fate. In Polish folklore, the most beautiful spells to the Zorze often begin with the diminutive Zorziczki, Zorzeshenki, as if one were addressing beloved aunts, not formidable goddesses. This shows how domestic and closed this cult was. And now, let's begin. Imagine a quiet room lit only by the glow of a small lamp. A newborn sleeps in a cradle. Suddenly, the air thickens. 3 women appear, invisible, or sometimes visible as luminous figures. One holds a spindle, the second measures the thread, the third waits in silence with scissors. All of the child's life depends on their words, whether they will be rich or die young in battle, or find love, or live through heavy hardship. This is not a fantasy fragment. This is one of the oldest and most enduring motifs of Slavic faith. The Rodzanice, known in Polish folklore as the 3 Zorze. Thousands of kilometers to the north, at the foot of the cosmic tree Yggdrasil, sit 3 other sisters, Urd, Verdandi, and Skuld, the Norns. They weave the thread of fate not only for humans, but for the gods and the entire world. They know that one day it will snap and Ragnarok will come. It cannot be changed. 2 traditions. 2 faces of the same ancient archetype, one domestic, warm, grandmotherly, the other epic, tragic, cosmic. Today, I will take you on a long, fascinating journey through mythology, folklore, historical sources, Indo-European comparisons, and practical ways our ancestors tried to influence their dola. In Norse mythology, the Norns are primarily three great sisters living by the well of Urd at the roots of Yggdrasil, the world tree. Their names are Urd, the past, what has happened; Verdandi, the present, what is becoming; Skuld, the future, the debt that must be paid. The oldest source, Völuspá, the prophecy of the seeress from the poetic Edda. Snorri Sturluson in the prose. Edda adds that there are many Norns, divine, elven, dwarven, but these three most important ones weave the fate of the entire cosmos. Even Odin, the most powerful of the Aesir, must bow to them. There are so many similarities that researchers see here, a classic Proto-Indo-European motif of three goddesses of fate spinning a thread. Threefold structure, three sisters symbolizing stages; for the Slavs, times of day and life; for the Norse, aspects of time. The thread motif, literal spinning, measuring, and cutting. For the Slavs, the thread is luminous. For the Norse, it is woven at the roots of the world tree. Appearance at birth. Both groups decree the dola or word for the newborn. Irrevocability. Fate is more powerful than the gods. Perun and Odin fight, but they will not change the verdict. Cult and sacrifices, bloodless gifts for the Slavs, offerings and runes for the Norse, female power associated with spinning, the traditional work of women. This is not a borrowing from Viking contacts with Slavs. This is a heritage from 4,500 to 6,000 years ago, from the times of the Proto-Indo-Europeans. Compare with the Greek moirai, Roman parquet, and the Baltic lema. Roughly 4,500 to 3,500 years before our era, on the steppes above the Black Sea, lived a people whose language and beliefs gave birth to most cultures of Europe and parts of Asia. Differences: the cottage versus the end of the world. This is where it gets most interesting. Scale: Slavs, the fate of one person, intimate, family-oriented. The Rodzanice come to a regular cradle. Norse, the fate of the entire cosmos. The Norns weave Ragnarok. There is a heroic tragedy in it. Tone and character: Zorze, luminous, beautiful, often benevolent. The spells are warm and grandmotherly. Norns, stern, gloomy, majestic. There are no charming songs. There is inevitability. Survival: for the Slavs, the cult survived in folklore until the 19th and 20th centuries through spells and rites. For the Norse, stronger in literature like the Eddas and sagas, the cult was less domestic. Connections with other goddesses: Zorze linked with Mokosh, Mother Earth, and Rod. Norns act independently, though Frigg has knowledge of fate. Other Norse goddesses in comparison: Frigg is closest to the Slavic Mokosh. Freya has within her the fire of Joanna. Valkyries resemble the dark aspect of the evening Zorze. Skadi is similar to the dark Marzana. In Slavic tradition, dola is strong, but it can be softened, strengthened, or redirected. The Rodzanice respect sincerity, sacrifice, and deeds. On your birth anniversary or important days like Cupola or New Year, set a table with a clean cloth. Put out bread, honey, groats, cheese, and a red apple. Say, Rodzanice, my sisters, luminous Zorze, morning, noon, and evening. Whatever you have assigned to me, soften it. What is evil? remove what is good, strengthen, accept the gift, and change my thread for the better. Take the remains to the forest or burn them. The oldest and most powerful ritual took place in the first 3 days after birth, most often on the first or third night. A woman in labor, her mother, or an experienced midwife prepared the room. The room was carefully swept and smudged with wormwood or juniper. The newborn's cradle was placed in the brightest corner, often under an east-facing window. On the floor or on a low stool, a clean white cloth was spread, sometimes embroidered with solar motifs. On the table, a gift for the 3 sisters was placed: a loaf of fresh bread, a bowl of honey, white cheese or curd, millet or buckwheat groats cooked in milk, and a red apple. The family did not sit at the table with the Rodzanice. The family left all the food for them for the whole night. The doors were left slightly ajar so the sisters could enter freely. The mother or grandmother whispered a quiet welcome. In Balkan folklore, the rite was even more theatrical. Women waited at midnight with a lit candle, listening for the whisper or footsteps of the sisters. If the baby cried then, it was believed their fate was being decided. The child's first haircut, usually between the 1st and 3rd year, was another key moment. It was believed that on this occasion the Rodzanice confirmed or improved the verdict given at birth. The lock was wrapped in a red cloth with a coin, grain, and a drop of honey. The bundle was buried under a tree or thrown into a river with a plea to strengthen the child's life. The rites of the Rodzanice were not a grand public ceremony. They were a quiet, everyday dialogue between a person and fate. Bread, honey, a word, and sincerity. That was enough for the 3 sisters to hear. They did not change the dola completely, but they could beautify it, lengthen it, or make it brighter. In today's world, when we feel that fate is against us, these old gestures still work on a symbolic, psychological, and magical level.